So welcome guys to another part of this video, or I would rather say of the series where I talk with amazing astrologers who are having lots of knowledge and who want to share their knowledge. And basically today we have the beautiful Lark here, and I contacted her as I saw her amazing channel and as I found out that she's doing Profections, which is something that I am not talking enough about on my channel, and that's why I wanted to have kind of a expert on that here. So welcome, Lark, to this channel, and introduce yourself, please, to everyone who's watching.
Okay, my name is Lark. I run Skylarkastrologystudio on Instagram. I am a traditional astrologer who uses ancient timing techniques and predictions to plan out your year ahead to make it more productive for you.
So really amazing, and I'm already so excited for us to dive into this, because this can be, as you probably know, life-changing for people, and it can help us to kind of navigate our lives, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Traditional astrology is very prediction oriented.
So this is also something that, is really, I feel like, also encouraging and can help people to really have, this deeper knowing of, okay, this is gonna come up for me and this is how I work with that. Which is, I feel like not enough people are talking about that, because we are literally are able to like look a little bit into the future of what is gonna happen.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing. It's so unexplainable. It still blows my mind, just like 5 years later, just into studying this, seeing very striking examples of how astrology manifests in your personal life. It's so unexplainable. It's striking. Being able to predict.
This is ours.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty magical.
Okay, so I already know how you got into astrology, but just quick explanation for everyone who is watching. What's kind of your story on getting into astrology and then especially into Profections?
Yeah. So I got into studying about 5 years ago. Before then, my aunt and my mom were kind of into sun sign astrology, which is how I was introduced to. I kind of was aware of just my own sun sign. And then I downloaded TikTok in 2019, and the first person I followed was an astrologer. She was the first person I found, and that was like my gateway and entrance into finding out that astrology was so much more than just personality stuff and like the things that you see on pop culture sites, for example.
Because this is, I feel like, what's mostly happening, or what people are mostly seeing, because astrology got so mainstream that it kind of, like, when people are really not into it, then people kind of tend to see it as, just spiritual stuff that's not really working. But we are literally, like, for me it is really revolutionary what we are able to see here and what we can do here. Generally with astrology, and especially with predictions, and with basically knowing what is going to come towards us in our lives. So
no, we're like modern prophets. I mean, come on, it's crazy what we're doing over here. You have to see it to believe it. Really?
That's the perfect description. That's really the perfect description.
Yeah, we're modern prophets.
Oh, that's really amazing. So do you maybe have like one story that you were able to predict, either in your life or in one of your clients' lives, that was really like, wow, mind blowing, like it really happened?
Okay. Well, for me personally, I got into studying astrology and into spirituality when I was in a 9th house perfection year. And so the 9th house has to do with things like belief systems, philosophy, astrology, spirituality. And that was my gateway towards it. And then the following year, when I was in a 10th house perfection year, was when I made the decision to create a career out of it. And also just my mom last year, this is more of a negative example, but She was in a third house perfection year when her car broke down, but she ended up getting a new car. And the third house has to do with like transportation and short distance travel, for example. So it's things like that. It's like, yeah, perfections, they highlight a certain house and the topics within that house.
Yes, so go a little bit deeper into this if you can, for everyone who never heard about perfections. Just explain from your perspective and from your point of view what perfections actually are in astrology.
Yeah. So it's an ancient timing technique. It's important to note that it uses traditional astrology alongside with it. So it uses the traditional rulership scheme. We don't use Neptune, Pluto, or Uranus as sign rulers. Um, we also use whole sign houses instead of like Placidus or equal sign houses. So it's important to note that it uses traditional astrology techniques because it's an ancient technique. Um, so how it works is that it in a given year, an entire house and the ruler of that house will be highlighted as important. And so the topics within that house will come to light either in physical manifestations or internally, but they will be marked as important for that year. Excuse me. And so what this does is it filters out what transits in a given year are important to you versus other transits that just might pass you by.
So this is also something that I didn't know, that you are actually using, like with the rulers of the houses. So for everyone who's watching who doesn't
Yeah.
know, the kind of updated, the new rulers are Neptune, Uranus, and
Pluto.
Neptune, Uranus, yes, and Pluto.
Yeah.
And the old, thank you. And the old rulers were some of the signs would have two rulerships, such as what is it, Aries, Scorpio, and
Yeah. Aries and
Aquarius.
Scorpio is Mars. Jupiter, Pisces goes to Jupiter, and then
Yes, Pisces.
yes, and then Aquarius goes to Saturn. That's the masculine rulership of Saturn.
Okay, yes. So that's basically, and but that's what I knew, because when we talk about ancient perfections or like timing techniques, those were the rulers that people knew at that time. But I actually didn't know about the whole houses signs. So not
Yes.
that's really interesting.
Yeah. So basically, say your ascendant is at like 18 Taurus. It just means the entire house of Taurus from 0 degrees to 30 degrees is the entire house. It doesn't go by like equal sign houses goes. It starts from the degree of the ascendant and goes from 30 degrees. It's the entire 0 to 30 degrees would be the house. Is that a good way of explaining it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That's really good way of looking at it, I feel like. And so maybe let's talk a little bit about what can it actually, okay, now we can predict future, how accurate is it actually, and what can it bring into someone's life, what are the benefits of knowing what's going to happen.
Right. So in a given year, so it starts before we get into that, just like on how to calculate it, you go by your birthday, you go by your age. Every house is correlated with an age. So for example, a seventh house perfection year belongs to the age of 18. If you're 18, you're going to be in a seventh house perfection year. And so the first house perfection year starts at 0. So when you emerge from the mother's womb and come into your body, that's the first house perfection year. And then the following year, the second house perfection year, is after you turn 1. And so it goes by your birthday. I always tell clients that your personal astrological new year is on your birthday, because that's when you switch into a new perfection house.
That's
Yeah. So if you Google a perfection diagram, it'll give you a bunch of, diagrams. So you don't have to count every age for every house. But the cycle repeats itself every 12 years. So after you finished a cycle, when you turn 12, you're going to come back to that first house and then go in zodiacal order again.
Oh, that's also really interesting. But
Yeah.
that's also a great way of, starting the year as looking as your birthday,
Mm-hmm.
as your beginning of the year, because then
Yeah.
it gets more specific.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. It's not everyone.
So
It's not New Year's for everyone, unless you're born on New Year's. It's on your birthdays when your New Year starts.
that's, I feel like, the magic of astrology, because even New Year doesn't really make sense astrologically, because
Oh my God, I know.
New Year New Year actually begins with the spring equinox when we enter
Yeah.
Aries.
It makes no
That's for
sense.
everyone. And so, especially sometimes, like, this is a different topic, but most of the times, December, you have Mercury retrograde, and then
Mm-hmm.
you want to, all of the signs are like in Pisces, no, in Aquarius. But it's a little like more sluggish energy, and
Mm-hmm.
then it just starts. That's why most of the times when you set your New Year intentions, it doesn't last,
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
because that's literally not the right timing for it.
Right. It makes no sense.
Yeah, really fascinating. Like, for me, I would love for humanity to consider the actual astrological New Year as the official New Year, and then we could really, bring more momentum into our New
Yeah.
Years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense astrologically. Same with like Valentine's Day being an Aquarius season.
Yes, yes, like, come on,
Yeah, like give it to Pisces.
Aquarius.
I know. Like who made this up? Oh.
Basically, just to mess us up and to mess up and that's why this is no, but really, this is, for me, astrology is about so much more than just like being spiritual. It's
Mm-hmm.
literally
Mm-hmm.
finding out back to your soul, back the connection to the universe, and basically working with the stars and not working against the stars.
Yes, working with the flow. That's how I would describe the benefits of perfection is that you know what's coming up and so you're in alignment rather than resisting the tide.
Because, and even like sometimes you can be like, okay, now I need to push myself, but if it's not the right time for you,
Yeah.
then you are
Yeah.
then you are just wasting your energy.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's just like that's not where you're supposed to be right now.
No, no, and this is something that is, I feel like, also with all of the hustle culture that is right now, you need to,
Mhm.
be working constantly and all the
Yeah.
time. But
Destroy
no,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, and the more you're destroyed, the better you are, because then you
Right.
can say, I'm working 12 hours a day, and then I don't get enough sleep, and my life is amazing, even
Right.
though I hate
I,
it.
I know that's not the meaning of life, but luckily astrology is here to tell us otherwise.
Yes, it's really amazing. So, now I'm 24. What perfection year will that be?
Your first house perfection year. So same with me. So
Oh,
topics around the self, identity, appearance, psychology. This is like the time to reinvent yourself. It's really fun. 12 first house
cool.
perfection are fun.
Yes, because you told me it goes, or you told everyone that it goes in those 12, 12 year cycles.
Increments?
So now
Yeah, yeah.
24, double that, we start by first, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it fits so beautifully into what's going on in my life currently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good. What's going on? Reinvention?
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
complete
Mm-hmm.
reinvention. Stepping into, I feel like, a more embodied version of myself,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
really feeling like I'm really starting to, be more aligned with who I truly am at my
Absolutely.
core, and really being able to show that to the world and not
Oh,
faking
yeah.
anymore. Yes.
Sure. It's a lot more like outward focus, especially because the last year you're in a 12th house perfection year, which is a little bit more internal, more
Oh
isolating. So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. 12th house perfection years are not that fun.
When we started, can you continue and say to, each house, what would the, general focus of
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
perfection year actually be?
Right. So, okay, we already did first house. So, say you're in a second house, the topic of finances are going to be lit up for you. So, either maybe spending finances or making income. Maybe you're trying to make more money around that time. Third house is things like communication, it's social media, it's commute, it's also like cars and vehicles and short distance travel alongside with siblings. Fourth house, home and family and property will be lit up. Maybe you're doing home renovations, maybe you're trying to build a family, or maybe you're just at home more. Fifth house, so that's children and creativity. So creative matters. Maybe you're thinking about having kids, for example. Sixth house, which is health, wellness, maintenance. It's like the things that we don't want to do, but we have to do. And then the seventh house, which is relationships. Maybe you get into a new relationship in a seventh house perfection year. Eighth house is shared resources, it's investments, it's also like inheritance, and also has to do with the death and occult. So maybe you get into occult matters, like you said before. That's where you start. Yeah. Ninth house, which is spirituality, belief systems, philosophy, long distance travel, foreign things, higher education. 10th house, that's career and reputation. 11th house, which is friends, groups, networking, and alliances. And then the 12th house, which is things like isolation, that's your psyche, that's mental health, that's you're kind of more in your head in a 12th house perfection year. It's a lot more isolating. It's all the internal stuff in a 12th
Yeah,
house
that's
perfection.
can then lead to more growth, right? And
Exactly.
do you have often clients, or did you also experience it yourself when you were in the 12th house perfection year? Like, or like, imagine if somebody doesn't know that it's their 12th house
Oh
perfection year.
yeah.
This is the struggle that they are going through, right?
Yeah. The 12th house, it could be very just you're just in your head all the time. It could at its worst, it could be things like depression or loss. We'll get into it later, but it depends on like the ruler of that chart and how it's situated, or the ruler of the house. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, the 12th house, it could be a little bit more of a difficult time. So for me, knowing that there was more sun on the other side, that I was going to be out of my head, this year in my first house perfection year, that really encouraged me to keep going and to just fight whatever bad mental issues I was going on. Yeah, it helped to know that it was going to end, it helped to know that it was going to end, and it helps because you're able to pinpoint when like the peak of those transits are going to occur, and maybe the peak 12th house experience will occur.
And how does that play with with like general transits that are
Mm.
occurring, currently in the sky?
Yeah, so this is the great part, because it's perfections are able to filter out what transits are important for you and which ones might just pass by as nothing, or a more of an internal experience. And so what you want to pay attention to is, say you're in like a 12th house perfection year, you want to pay attention to the transits that are going into that house, first of all. Second of all, you're going to want to pay attention to the ruler of that house in your natal chart. So let's say your 12th house is Mercury. You're going to want to look to Mercury in your chart for the ruler of that house. And you're going to want to look to transits to that planet. And then thirdly, you're going to want to look at Mercury as a whole, transiting your chart and seeing how it connects with your other planets. Those are going to be like your exclamation point type of transits.
That makes it so much easier, because I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes it gets confusing with, all of the transits that are happening, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
what
happening
is
all the
actually,
time. Yeah.
oh, you see, I love learning new things. I really didn't know that, but it makes it so much simpler, because sometimes I look at all of the transits for somebody, and I'm like, oh my God, there is so much happening. And it's
Yeah,
sometimes hard to judge what is actually going to affect them more, and what is more important for that
absolutely.
person.
Uh-huh. So yeah, so like if Mercury's your time lord, which is, by the way, that's what it's called. Whatever ruler of the house is going to be your time lord for that year. And so say if Mercury goes retrograde, that's going to be a lot more prominent for you than maybe it will be for someone who's not in a Mercury ruled year.
Oh, that also makes sense because sometimes people like for some people like Mercury retrograde is really like horrible that
Yeah,
they tended to feel it like so strongly, and for others
right.
they are just like, oh no, everything seems to be working just fine.
Exactly. Yeah, some transits are just, you don't even notice them. They're not necessarily something that'll manifest as an event. So it's nice that there's like a filter now that you can, sift through.
That's really really awesome. So how can people maybe use it and make kind of sense, or make use for it for their daily lives with using Profections, or doing a reading that will help them to understand what's going on currently?
Mm-hmm. It mostly depends on what profection year you're in and what planets are being highlighted for you. That depends on the guidance and advice that I would give to a client. But again, it's good to know what's coming ahead so you're not so stressed about every transit. And so that you know how to work with it. So say you again, the 12th house perfection year, so someone's more in their head, it's more internal, maybe they're going through a hard time. It's nice to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and instead of fighting against the tide, maybe because you're in an internal state, maybe it's time for some self-awareness, really trying to introspect. That's a good time for introspection. So, and then it'll lead to growth in the first house perfection year. So it really depends on the house and the planets lit up for the advice and guidance I would give. But I would typically tell someone to embrace it rather than to fight against it, because that's just where you're at in life. You have to go through it.
And yeah, so because sometimes there is this urge to, yeah, like wanting to escape it, or like not wanting to deal with it, but I feel like this is just everything happens for a reason, and
Yeah.
when we are aware of it, I feel like then we can make more out of the event that is occurring, than if we wouldn't be aware that this is happening, right?
Exactly. Otherwise, you just feel lost, you just feel very hopeless. But with astrology, it kind of puts a shine a light on that instead of, instead of keeping you in the dark.
So, are there any like points or any particular houses that you would say, or any like transits to particular houses that would make it like more difficult or more challenging for
Mm.
somebody?
Okay, so the quality of that year is going to depend on the ruler of your house and your natal chart. So what Profections does is it highlights certain aspects in your chart that you already have. So let's say you have like a stellium in your 12th house. Let's go back to the 12th house. That stellium will be activated in your natal chart. So whatever aspects are lit up during that perfection year, that's going to come into light and kind of signify the natal promise. So, like, for example, a better example would be like a 10th house perfection year. Let's say this person has a very nice and lovely 10th house. So, like, Jupiter's there along with the sun, what have you. It's a really lovely 10th house. When someone's born, it's not like they're immediately like a career person or like a CEO of some company, right?
Imagine that.
Right. Yeah, like coming out of the womb, a CEO. No, but let's say they get into a 10th house perfection year, that placement will be activated. And that's when that will come to life.
Oh, so we can actually also use it to tap into our fullest potential that is
Yes.
already in our nature. Oh my God,
Yes. Because
so
it
amazing.
totally, yeah, it activates that aspect. And so the quality of that year is going to depend on the quality of the ruler of the planet of the perfection. So let's say your 10th house is like the moon, for example. So you're going to want to look at the transits of the moon, and you're going to want to look at the condition of the moon in your chart to see if it's being afflicted by, say, Mars or Saturn. Maybe it's hindering it a little bit. Maybe that's going to point to a little bit more of a challenge in your year, versus if it's being supported by Jupiter or Venus, that's going to be a little bit easier flow. It all depends on the quality of that sign.
Oh, it's amazing. So it's also kind of like the universe like lights those different parts of our life so that we can become aware of it, so that we can work through it or work with those parts of ourselves in order to,
yeah.
oh my God,
That's when
like,
the story comes to life. Yeah. Because
oh,
it's like you don't
amazing.
know. Yeah, it's like you have this chart, but you don't know when all of this is going to, like, you know, come to life. Like, again, like the 10th house perfection year, like, how do you know when you're going to become, you know, some big career person? It's not straight out the womb, definitely. So it's during the 10th house perfection year, that's when it gets activated.
Wow, that's really amazing, because it really allows us to use our fullest potential, and
Yeah.
like, you know, everything is at its right timing. So then we really have the support of the universe if we are able to see it, because we can either work through some challenges in our psyche so that then we can, you know, tune into a more higher, more developed frequency, or more developed kind of energy of that certain aspect. Wow, that really is even more amazing than
It's so
I
cool.
than
Yeah.
I imagined. It's like literally, why isn't that taught in schools?
I know. It's so
Imagine.
much more helpful. God, I know.
Yes. Like I would rather, you know, learn about that, and, you know, learn generally about astrology, and be like, okay, now I'm having a challenging time because I know I'm in my, you know, either eighth house, maybe, you know, also those dark, I could imagine in the eighth house, that some of the darker parts of our psyche are also coming a little bit to life, being maybe highlighted. But it's so much, like, it's so helpful to know that, because it's I feel like it also takes away from like the pressure, because if that's not the right year for you to become, you know, the CEO,
Oh yeah.
or if that's not just a year for you to, you know, have the most like relationships, or, you know, this is not going to be the focus of this year, then you already know it, and that you can consciously focus on different things that are highlighted.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's totally helpful when you're just in alignment with the astrology. You know, astrology just wants you to do a certain thing. It's not helpful to go against it. Otherwise, you're just going to have to keep learning the lessons that you're not learning. So,
What's do you have kind of a story where you, from your own experience, or from some of your clients, when you wanted to go against the universe and then something bad happened, or, you know, when you just didn't seem to get any results?
oh yeah. I mean, honestly, last year in my 12th house perfection year, I was, even though I was aware of it, I was just kind of fighting it, because, you know, being in your head and just being isolated, that's hard to deal with. Where I was trying to fight the tide of being introspective and trying to be more social, but that's not what the universe wanted for me. And so it's my social interactions were just kind of, it's kind of just not ready. Like, I would be going to like networking events and certain things, and it was very clear to me that I wasn't ready to be like open and vulnerable, for example. But yeah.
So that's this only shows, you know, we are still human beings, and sometimes if something hard is happening, and even though we have the awareness of it, it's sometimes still hard to kind of be okay with that.
Oh yeah, I would argue that the 12th house is probably one of the hardest, just because you are so isolated. Unless you're very familiar with the 12th house already, anyone who's not, that's going to be hard for anyone, you know?
Now I'm wondering, because like in 22, was it 22 or 23? I don't know, but because maybe I was still in the 12th house, because I could imagine like that the 12th house is also correlated with like like struggling mentally and then being in
Yes.
a kind of how is it called, like a facility, like mental.
Oh yeah, yeah. So isolation isn't just like isolated in your home or in your head. It's isolation also in things like hospitals. It can be even just like spiritual retreats. It doesn't have to be negative, but yeah, isolation is isolated places as well.
Yes, because for me, then the 12th like transits, house transits, or like perfection year was also pretty challenging because this was
Mm-hmm.
actually going like through a toxic relationship. I actually got myself through being in I don't know how it's called, but kind of like a mental facility, like not something crazy, but 3 months like kind of away to deal with all of the
Wow.
mental stuff that was coming. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's a
12th
very
house
striking
really,
example. Wow.
yeah.
Do you have planets in the 12th house?
Oh yes. I have Neptune, Uranus, um, Neptune, Uranus as South Node
Oh
in my
wow.
12th house, Moon in the 12th
Oh
house.
wow.
Um,
Oh wow. No wonder that was quite the big year for you. Yeah. Yeah, all those planets were activated. That makes sense. Oh god, I'm
yeah,
sorry
so
that you went through that.
it I think this was also the kind of the time where Pluto went over my moon.
Oh,
So
that's gonna happen for me in a few years, and I'm like terrified of it. I'm terrified.
it's
I'm
fun.
gonna
It's
be so
not
scared.
funny. After going through it, it's not that bad,
Oh
but it's
yeah,
definitely
no.
not fun.
Oh yeah, you're here and you're thriving. You're doing amazing. So yeah, it was not for
Yeah.
no reason, right?
Yes, so you were, I also feel like it was, I wasn't at that time, I wasn't aware of astrology, didn't know that this is going to happen, and I did have no clue what was happening. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was not prepared at all, and
Oh,
my emotions are something that I always struggled with, like expressing and just working through
mm.
them. And
Oh
so it's
yeah.
really like Pluto went in there, and the whole year was.
Oh man, dug up everything, I bet. Wow. Yeah, Moon in the 12th has that trouble of being able to express emotionally. Yeah. I really feel you on that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also in Capricorn. So
Oh, and Capricorn too. I got Moon in detriment. Oh, that's yeah, but you're here, so
I always feel like it's such a weird combination because my son is in a Leo, and then Leo is fun. Leo is
I'm a Leo
love the
too.
spotlight. And oh, that's why the energy matched.
I know, right? I get
That's why
it.
I found you. Like, but really, I will not look at people's chart, and then but I am so often like just aligned with the Leo energy or with
Yeah,
Virgos. That's
yeah.
those two, or with Scorpio. Those three energies I surround myself constantly with.
Do you have planets in Virgo and Scorpio? I do.
I have my Mars in Scorpio in 8th house.
Me too.
So
I have a Mars in Scorpio. Do you have Virgo Venus?
no, I what no yes, yeah, I have Virgo Venus.
You do?
Yes.
Me too. Oh my god.
Okay, in which and the people are gonna have so much fun watching
Yeah.
this.
Oh my god. That's crazy. So
And
so
in
you're
what
an
house
Aquarius
do you have
rising, right?
sun in?
What's that?
What house do you have your sun in?
Mine's in the 11th, conjunct the North Node.
Oh, okay. I have my in 6th house. But it's not conjunct my north node, but it's also sitting very close to my north node.
That's so interesting. Wow.
I
Oh my
love like
god, that's crazy.
what rising sign are you?
I'm a Libra rising.
Oh, okay, okay. That explains a lot.
That's funny. That's funny.
Oh wow. You see, it's so the more you study astrology, the more you work with charts and with everything, you see similar energy attracts, the people that you are vibing with. Probably when you look at composite charts, or basically like at their charts, and you compare it, there are similar energies going on.
I know we didn't even do this on purpose. It's just like so accidental. It's crazy.
Like I was just like looking for cool people to do it with, and I was like, I don't know, I like your energy.
I know, who would have thought? Oh my god. No wonder we vibe so well. We understand each other.
So funny.
I know.
And your Mercury is it in Leo?
Yeah, I'm Mercury. Are you? Is you? Let me guess. Saturn in Taurus. Same with Jupiter.
Jupiter is also in Taurus.
We
Yes.
like have the same chart.
Wow. Do you also feel, because for me, my like Taurus is in my second house, so I sometimes feel like, I will save all of the money, and then I will completely, and then other times I'm just like, oh, let's spend it here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially with Saturn there, likes to withhold, likes to save. Yeah.
Yeah. But then the Jupiter comes in, and it's like
And
expansion and
goals. Yeah.
optimism.
Right. Totally get it. Taurus loves sensory pleasure, simple pleasure. I definitely do too.
Yeah, but you're also ruled, by Venus. Um, you're, because you're Libra rising. So, but for me, it's, Saturn and more, which is, I feel like I feel like sometimes the more you analyze a chart, that the more amazed I am at because it just shows you how complicated actually astrology is, because there are so many layers. Because I feel like when people first see me, they would never expect, like, the Leo energy comes just with people who actually also have strong Leo placement. Then I can also like tune up to my Leo energy. But normally I am more like reserved and like, in the
Yeah.
back, and like there is this Aquarius, and most of the times I probably don't even look like I'm a really nice person because
I know Saturn risings are like resting bitch face, even though they're not like that.
yeah.
It's
And
so like
sometimes
that.
people ask me like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing is wrong." And then, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "I'm not mad."
Yeah, just my face. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's so you're Aquarius rising, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
like 29th degree
Oh wow,
Aquarius.
the very end, anaretic degree. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah, it's also quite, interesting, because I have like 29 degree or like rising Aquarius, then comes then in the first house still comes Pisces and Aries energy. So it's like three different energies already in the first house.
Right. That's a lot. You get a
Yeah,
lot
and
from
I,
that.
I feel like I don't know what your it's not the topic of today's video, but uh I don't know, maybe you have experience, because like for me, whenever I see so many different energies within one, like life area, like within one house, I feel like depending on transits and depending on kind of what you're tuning into, you can tap into kind of different, like almost frequencies, different, energies of that, the same given
Yeah.
house.
Yeah,
This
that's a
life
good way
area
of
is
putting it.
gonna be probably very where you can be, where you kind of tend to have different personalities almost. Um,
Oh yeah.
and I feel like it kind of gets really confusing, especially, in the first house. Like, am I Aquarius? Like, do I
Right.
want to show up as Aquarius? Do I want to show up as Pisces?
Yeah.
Or do I want to show up as Aries?
I
Like,
know.
three very different energies.
I know. It's like the chameleon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Sometimes I at some point in my life I was like, uh, who even am I?
Right. Yeah. That could be
um,
confusing. It's like mixed
yeah,
paint.
but okay, let's maybe go back to the perfections, and I'm looking at the questions that I wrote. And I think actually we went through all of the questions. I don't know, is there something that you feel like people should know about Profections, or is it, do you have something more that you would love to share with people um around the topic?
Um, I just want to re-emphasize that the quality of the year is going to be dependent on the quality of the house ruler and the house itself. So you'll be able to filter out a little bit more of the difficult year versus the more positive year by seeing how that ruler is placed, what sign it's in. That's going to be like a huge embodiment of that year too as well. So like a Mercury ruled year, whatever sign Mercury's in, it's your year's kind of gonna embody that placement in your birth chart. So yeah, the quality is going to depend on how the perfection house is and how the ruler of that house is. So I just want to reiterate that.
So I feel like we got enough information for people. I feel like this
Yeah,
was kind
this
of
was a great
into go,
podcast.
going into different, but that's why I love doing those videos, because you start with like maybe that's just me, but you start with one topic and then you end up
Yeah.
along the way you slide into a different topic and then you're back to the original topic. But because astrology is just so amazing, you can go in so many different
I
directions.
know. It's so
um
broad. It's so Have you heard of like locational astrology?
yes, that's
Oh, I've been
that's
interested in learning that. It's just so crazy. That's so cool.
I actually didn't get completely like right into it. I just briefly understand the
Yeah,
principles.
me too.
uh, but yeah, but I'm actually planning to moving, uh,
Ooh.
so that my my south node would be in the first house,
Mhm.
and the north node would be in the seventh house with my
Oh,
sun and
gotcha.
Mercury. So I feel like many beneficial like friendships or just partnerships in general could be there. And
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the south node in the first house. I don't know how it would show up, but I feel like it could be, because then Neptune would be on my ascendant. Like Neptune
Mm.
would be, so I feel like it's either gonna be very spiritual
Yeah.
and connecting with that spiritual part of myself, which I feel like this probably would be. But if I would not be aware of the energy, and if I wouldn't be as aware of everything, and how the planets work, this could also be like escapism tendencies and like
Totally.
getting lost
Totally.
in, yeah, and not being able to kind of see clearly what's
Oh,
really going
totally.
on.
I know. It could
um
totally be either.
and that's maybe also something that we should quickly talk about, because there are the energy in your chart you can't change, but you can
Mhm.
also, but you can always change, no, not change, but you can always choose how you will embody the energy, right? Because
Yes.
we
Yeah.
how maybe on this note, how would you explain that in context of like Profections? Because yes, you can say something is challenging, but it's not gonna be as challenging, or it doesn't have to be as hard, you know as for somebody else, if you are able to see, okay, this is actually, this is challenging, but it's not something negative, because you can
Mhm.
still choose to see it that way.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. So say like you say like there's no like outside events affecting you in any way that's deterring you, but it's say you're in a 12th house perfection year again, and say it's a difficult year. Um, so I would tell the client maybe start like a meditation practice, really be introspective, start like learning about yourself, especially like that's what I did. Like in my 12th house perfection year, I went into my own psyche a lot, even if I didn't want to. That's it, I embraced that, and so that's a great time to do that instead of resisting it and being really sad, that you're just in your head and feeling lonely. Take advantage of your alone time, really, was what I would tell someone.
Yes, so like instead of being, oh well, this is gonna be a shit year because
Right.
I'm
And
gonna,
do nothing. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm gonna be depressed all the time. And but we
Mhm.
can see it as, okay, this is an opportunity from the
Yes.
universe to be like, okay, there are some things that you are not dealing with subconsciously, some patterns
Right.
that you need to work through,
Yeah.
and this is where the growth is gonna happen.
Exactly. Exactly. Embrace it. Embrace it. Go inside.
Also, I just got this thought, like, if you're for example, you are an 11th house sun, so the perfection year where it's your birthday, is it gonna be even more highlighted?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that. As far as sun and moon perfection years, it's important to note that the lunations and especially the eclipses are going to be very, very important for you. So that's what you're going to want to pay attention to. I haven't really seen any correlation between someone's birthday. Maybe there is. Maybe now that you say it, I'll notice it. But as far as I'm concerned, I have not seen such correlation.
Okay. Oh, wait, wow. Now I'm thinking about all of the people who will, now we are, what eclipse we are gonna have in Libra, isn't it?
That's coming up
Libra.
soon. So, yeah,
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 I'm already excited about that,
I know,
even
me
though,
too. It looks like a good eclipse. It doesn't look. It's not like being harmed by Mars or Saturn. It looks pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah. So it's like, it also depends on what you're gonna do with it. But for me, like, I feel like during eclipses, because for me it already started to happen. I'm already starting to see the energy of the eclipse affecting my life, and I feel
Same.
like and with eclipses, it's like you can really see many external changes. It's not just
Oh yeah.
something going on internally, but really
Yeah.
those bigger
Oh.
events that are
Oh
really
yeah.
happening.
Yeah. It's very catalytic. So, yeah, they're catalysts. So especially if you're in a sun or moon year, you gotta watch out for those, man.
Oh, then it's even more right. Then it's even more important. So
hmm
many things that you need to actually pay attention to. But as
Right.
probably people are able to see, and that's why I feel like everyone should know a little bit about astrology, and because I feel like it's really not something just for spiritual, because
Oh
everyone
no.
is like we are everyone is spiritual. We are like
Right.
spirits, like we are souls incarnated
Yeah,
just
we're literally
but we are still
stardust.
souls.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I know, right? It's
And
it's just who we are.
yes, and so I feel like we should stop making it some like it's nothing special. It's actually something that should be normal. This
hmm
should be I feel like the normal stuff that we teach to people,
I
so that
hope it
we
becomes
are.
like that.
Yes,
Yeah, it's so crucial. It could
but
help
right now,
so many people.
um, and I feel like right now, with the energy updates that the Earth and everyone is going through, we are basically shifting from 3D to 5D reality.
hmm
I feel like and that's what we also can see, from with now being an astrologer isn't, maybe not everyone is gonna believe it, but it's not as strange as it would be, years ago,
Right.
where you seem just like super crazy because you are into astrology.
Yeah, yeah.
Now the only problem that I see is, making it mainstream and kind of not really getting into what it actually is, but like
I
keeping it,
know. Yeah.
on this light side, and like, you know,
I know a
uh,
lot of it's very like pop culture-esque. It's not like actually demonstrating what it can do and how powerful it is.
yeah, and I feel like that's one of the problems, because even though we are now aware, we are kind of like making not fun of it, but we are not using it properly. But
Right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
as with everything, it depends on how you actually use it. Like,
Mhm.
same with social media. You can either use it in order for you, to connect with people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can use it in order to educate yourself, or you can use it, just to randomly watch some videos and not make anything out of your life.
Absolutely
So,
agree. I absolutely agree. Yeah. That's up to you.
okay. On that note, I would say, do you have any last any last information that you want to give out to people? How can they contact you if they would like to get a reading from you? Because by now they probably are able to see how amazing and how much knowledge you have about perfections. And so for everyone who is interested, how do people approach you?
So come to my Instagram. Website is on the works, still work on it. So go to at Skylarkastrologystudio on Instagram. Hit me up on my DMs. I know it seems kind of sketchy, but I promise it's not. I got my offers up there. So yeah, go ahead, go pop over to my DMs. I'd be happy to help.
Okay, I will also post your or like link all of your information down below this video, so that everyone can just click onto that and be directed to your site, like your Instagram page. And yes, it's like I really had a lot of fun, and I really hope that we can do it sometimes.
We can talk about
more.
So much. It's so interesting.
It's fascinating because you can go into so many different directions and just randomly talk about it for hours and like come to so many conclusions that can be so beneficial, but it's also fun.
Yeah, I know, right? And I love that we're able to learn from each other because we're two different astrologers, with two different approaches. Yes. It's so, this was amazing. I'm so glad that we did this.
Okay, so thank you so much for being here, for coming into this channel, and hopefully we are gonna come back with different episodes on different topics. Also, I would say for everyone who wants to see a different part of us together, DM us or write in the comments down below what topics will be interesting. This will also be fun. We just pick different topics or different questions, and then we answer them from from your perspective and then from my perspective.
Absolutely. This will also be fun. That would be so cool, right? That's a great idea.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So guys, have an amazing day or night or wherever you are, and I will see you in another video, and we will see you also hopefully in different parts and second episodes.
Yes.
Okay, so bye guys, bye everyone. See you next time.